Welcome to After the Pull, the video series where I take the rest of the comic books that I read for the current comic book week and share my thoughts with you guys. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you guys love daily comic book content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, you guys came to the right place. Before we get started, just gotta give a quick shout out to MutantBeaverComics.com. Guys, if you love exclusive variant comic book covers, check out MutantBeaverComics.com. They have over 4,000 exclusive variants in their store. They got top-notch customer service, great packaging, and you can use my promo code CORNER10. Not only can you save on that first purchase, but every other purchase after that. So check out MutantBeaverComics.com. I got a hefty episode for this week's After the Pull, so let's get started. So just a little programming note, due to my summer schedule, I could have a much abbreviated version of After the Pull, maybe covering my top 5 comics of the week. If you guys haven't checked out my video, my summertime video, I suggest you check that out. I'll leave that for you at the end of this one. So here we go. The first book we're talking about today is Titans issue 11. Some of you surprised are probably like, oh my God, I can't believe you picked this up and you read it. I thought you were going to drop it, Mike. But in the preview, in a book that I read with a preview of this new character by the name of Vanadia, Vanadia? I can't even say it right. It doesn't come out of my mouth right. Vanadia, I think that's how you say her name. I found it very interesting. I always like seeing origin characters of like villains, and it seemed like they put some thought into this character, how she kind of idolized the Titans and she wanted to become a Titan herself, and we got to see Star Labs like experiment on her drive, her determination, and then something went very wrong, right? And then she became like a version of all the Titans. She's kind of like a super Skrull. That's what I got out of this. And she is led to believe that the Titans have been like repossessed and have taken over and whatnot. And so she's out to destroy these Titans. And of course, who's behind it all? Amanda Waller. But with some great artwork and great action and a somewhat interesting character. I would love to learn more about her. I definitely really like this book, and it was a step in the right direction for me. So this was the best Titans book that I read in a little while, and so I'm going to give this one a solid B. We're going to see where it goes from here. I want to know your thoughts in the comments below, what you guys think of Titans as of now. So a lot of the web heads are going to be happy that I read this, and it's Wonder Woman issue 9. I was behind. I read issue 8 and 9 back to back. I had some peace and quiet. No one was going to bother me when I read these 2 issues, because Tom King's writing, and what turns me off about his writing, tends to be very dense, okay? And so in these past couple of issues, we've got to see the Sovereign have captured Wonder Woman and try to break her down, right? In the last issue, she was tied up by the lasso of lies, and she's led to live in this life with Steve Trevor, where Trevor was like the dominant male species and trying to just break Wonder Woman down. And now when she broke out of those lassos of lies, she got recaptured again and got thrown into this cell for months without anybody, and she's just secluded in there. And so the first person she goes to keep her will strong and to be by her side mentally is Steve Trevor, okay? And then you see all these different thoughts that I guess is going on in her head, and an explanation of what was going on with the Sovereign and all this other different stuff. And I can honestly tell you, like, by the time I got done reading this issue, I was just like, okay, let's get to the point where you see her in a cell all by herself, because you're reading what has happened and she already told you what has happened. So you're waiting for that last page of the Sovereign to make his appearance and Wonder Woman in the cell, and to let you know that her will not be broken, and that's what you get out of this. Okay, and I thought that was kind of cool. It just was just the same thing over and over for me, repetitive, just scene after scene, and so it wasn't like very exciting. So I don't know. Yeah, it was okay for me, but I'm kind of just like, couldn't Wonder Woman break out of this? or is this in some kind of weird place where she just can't break out of? I'm not sure. But yeah, it was, again, it's a Tom King book, and this is what you can expect from Tom King. It's very dense, there's a lot of dialogue, and not that it's a bad thing, but for me, it just doesn't progress the story all that much. I feel like in these past 2 issues, you're repeating, it's very repetitive, you know, so I'm going to still continue to read it. It just wasn't my favorite book, so I'm going to give this one a C+. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous in this book. I think the story is interesting and intriguing, how this Sovereign character has such a grip on Wonder Woman that she can't get out of this situation. So again, I'm just curious to see how she will get out of it all. Nightwing, issue 114, legacy numbering 301. 28 pages for the price of $5. We have Tom Taylor on the book with Bruno Redondo once again. This is the first part of 5, the final story arc, the conclusion of Tom Taylor's run. The artwork is always great when Redondo is actually on it. He has a certain distinct feel and makes the book just feel a lot more impactful when you're reading it. You get reintroduced to the Heartless character in this comic book once again, which I thought, man, is so really good because it makes you feel like how much of a badass this character is. And he's been gone for so long, you're kind of like, who's Heartless, right? And so again, the writer makes you see, okay, Heartless is this intimidating. He has this much power amongst all the other people. And at the beginning of this comic, you wind up getting to see Dick Grayson somewhere in the mountains, and it just seems like he's been broken down and he's trying to build himself back up. What that is, you're getting to see that in the beginning pages of this story arc. And we get to see Nightwing kind of tackle a guy who stole a frozen chicken to feed his family. And then it looks like he's being accused of working with Blockbuster and things like that. So it looks like just things are going wrong for Nightwing all of a sudden when things went so right in the previous stories. So we'll see what happens. This book was good. It's just kicking off things. I can't really, give it a solid, oh my God, you must read this. So if you've been reading Nightwing all this time, you might as well finish the arc, right? So the beginning of this, I thought was okay. I thought it was a B-. It's just, Tom Taylor's storytelling is definitely very slow burnish, and even in this last story arc, you would think you would have seen a little bit more story progression, and you're like, man, how is he going to wrap up this whole thing in 4 issues? Like, I don't know, but we'll see how it goes. I've stuck with it through the beginning, and I'll stick through it to the end. I want to know your guys' thoughts on this particular issue. Superman, issue 14, 28 pages for the price of $5. Writer here is Joshua Williamson. The art is done by Rafa Sandoval. The art is good, man. It looks great. There's this battle between Lobo and Superman, which even though it was short-lived, it did definitely look epic. The facial expressions on Lex Luthor and Kara there are pretty awesome. Very intense by all the characters, and by the time you do get to the end of this comic, we finally get to see the Brainiac Queen character rise, and she is very intimidating looking, and she is ginormous. And in this comic, you wind up seeing the reason why not Lex Luthor, but Brainiac acquired all of the super family and people with superpowers, and you really get to see how monstrous and villainous the Brainiac Queen is and what it must do to feed itself. So there's a reason why. It's kind of funny because you thought all of Lobo's people were dead, right? And then they came back. Well, it looks like they're not going to be around anymore once again, if you get what I'm saying, right? Because of this Brainiac Queen. But definitely a great story. A nice little fight to start the book off with. Maybe it should have been a little bit more, but I understand where they were going with it because they had to get to the point of, explaining everything that was going on why the superheroes were acquired, and to, again, show the rise of the Brainiac Queen. They wanted to make that a really cool scene. So at the end of the day, this was another solid read. I'm going to give this one a B-. B plus. I'm really enjoying the House of Brainiac. It's been consistent all the way through. We'll see how this thing goes towards its conclusion. Black Widow and Hawkeye. This is issue 3, 32-page comic for the price of $4. This book is written by Stephanie Phillips. The art is done by Paolo Villanelli. The artwork is good. I do like it, especially the flashback scenes when we get to see an earlier version of Hawkeye. We also get to see Iron Man in his book, which is cool. We get to see the earlier versions of Natasha in here as well. And those scenes is good, okay? Now, the overall story of this book is that you get to see Black Widow, Natasha, who is actually a symbiote by the name of Widow in this comic, heal Clint from being poisoned in the last issue. And now that we had the symbiote enter his body, he already has remnants of the symbiote that's in there, causing his emotions to go wild. And while Natasha's off doing her thing to get water to rehydrate actually Clint, right, and to have him recover from his injuries, he winds up taking matters into his own hands. And we get to see the symbiote emotions that is like within him taking over his body, kind of calling him weak, kind of calling him scared, needing Natasha for him to survive, which, you know, I don't really feel that is true. I think Clint Barton is very capable of doing things on his own. And then when he comes across the main enemy in this comic book, it's kind of like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. And I'm kind of worried that we already got Black Widow as a symbiote, and the next thing that they're going to do is have Clint become a symbiote. And then I'm going to be like, dude, we need to stop. Like, Natasha, there was no reason for her being a symbiote at all. There's no reason behind it. Even though she looks cool and she has a kind of the way she handles her powers are kind of cool, but it's just not necessary. We don't need everybody to be a symbiote in the Marvel universe. It's like a very slow apocalyptic or zombie virus where everyone is slowly becoming Venoms, you know? And it's just not necessary. But the overall story was all right. Again, I like those flashbacks better, so I'm going to give this one a C+. Good artwork at certain times, and we'll see how this thing continues. Ultimate Black Panther issue 4, 28 pages, $5. This book is written by Brian Hill. The art is done by Stefano Caselli. The art is absolutely gorgeous in this comic. The colors are bright and vibrant. Check out this page here with Okoye actually addressing the situation to the people of Wakanda, where their king is at. I thought that was awesome in there. This book is very fast-paced. There was lots of action as they tried to kill the queen, you can say. And this is all, of course, I guess thanks to Lord Khonshu and Lord Ra as they're scheming together to, I guess, take over Wakanda. And the queen doesn't even know where T'Challa is, right? But she had to address those people. But then at the end, we wind up seeing him make his return back onto the scene. And we get to see a little dispute between the king and queen about being honest with each other. And he's like, well, I can't trust anybody. There's only a few people that we can trust. And so what happens is she goes to her and she says, these are the people that we can trust. We can trust Killmonger and we can trust Storm, and these are the friends of Wakanda, and that's kind of it. And it's like, wow, like that's insane. So I feel like action is really going to start to heat up with this comic. I like this issue better than issue 3, and I am definitely so interested to see where this story will go, including the entire Ultimate Universe as a whole. So I'm going to give this one a B+, a very much fun read with great action, great artwork. It's just the whole package, basically. X-Men 97, this is issue 3, 32 pages for the price of $4. This book is written by Steve Fox. The art is done by Salvador Espin. The artwork is so animated, like, man, it's so funny. Yes, here you get to see Hulk in there, but it's not really Hulk. It's actually Morph making his appearance for the first time in the X-Men 97 comic series. And, you know, because you see him right from the start in the animated series, but here is his first time. And we wound up getting to see our X-Men heroes do battle against Mr. Sinister's cronies. There wasn't all that much or in-depth storytelling. It was very action-based. But seeing all your cast of characters like, you know, Beast and Cyclops and Gambit and Jubilee and Bishop, Madeline Pryor, Morph, Rogue Storm, Wolverine was just awesome, right? And again, they're doing battle against this Carl Denty guy, and the other cast of characters that they're doing battle against is like Hazard, Sabretooth, Sienna Blaze, and I think that was it. Valerie Cooper makes her appearance here in the comic as well. So very much all the characters that you saw in the X-Men 97 series. And we wound up getting to see Cyclops and I guess you should say Madeline Pryor actually go to the house of Jean Grey and have a baby shower there, right? But then you have all these other mutants that are going to come and, you know, wreck everything and destroy everything and give mutants a bad name once again. And it's all because of Mr. Sinister. So he's behind this whole story, and the last issue is the last issue of this. So this was only a mini series. I did not know that. So 4 issues when it comes to X-Men 97. So check it out. You know, you're gonna have fun with this. I don't think this is the best read in the world. I'm gonna give this one a B-, real close to being a C+, because it's just a bunch of fighting, but it does remind you of a Saturday morning cartoon. The Sensational She-Hulk. This is issue 8, guys. This is my guilty pleasure comic. I'm not going to lie. Like, I read this book because it's She-Hulk. I love the character, and I'm hoping for some reason it gets better. But do I hope it gets better because of more action and more fighting against villains and stuff like that? Or is it deep down inside, I like the romance, the love triangle. It's a freaking soap opera, but I'm glued to it. It's like freaking watching, you know, One Life to Live or freaking General's Hospital or All My Children, you know, all those soap operas of back in the day. This is legacy numbering 186, 32 pages, $4, written by Rainbow Rowell, and the art is done by Andreas Genelit. The art's good, man. It's fun. It's bright. It's vibrant. The facial expressions in this book are also phenomenal. It's very filled with a lot of emotion in this comic, and you really get to see, you know, the struggle within when it comes to She-Hulk, right? When she has the loss of possibly the Jack of Hearts in this comic, as he's possibly going with the other person. What's her name? Ganymede. Okay, but that's not the case. Jack does not leave, and I was honestly hoping he would go away so She-Hulk can move on with her life. The only thing that bothers me about this comic is that the only thing this comic has been focused around is this romance with Jack of Hearts. This is really what it is. So if you're not a fan of like soap operas and romances and this on again, off again relationship between these two characters, this is not going to be the book for you. But the way they do write this book, it tears at the heartstrings a little bit, you know? So it's not a bad book in that way. You got to understand what it's going for. And the end of the book with Patsy Walker is actually kind of funny as well. So at the end of the day, it's a different book. So I'm going to grade this one a B. Yeah, a B. I can't sit there and say that I do not like it. Did I expect a different direction for She-Hulk when this first came out? Yes. Did I rag on this book when it first came out? Yeah, absolutely. Do I want more story progression on this book? Yes, I do. Do I want to interact with more characters? Yes, I do. But this is that guilty pleasure comic book where it's just like, I kind of want to see where this life triangle goes, right? Give me your thoughts in the comments below. The Spectacular Spider-Man. This is issue 3, 28 pages for the price of $4. Greg Wiseman here. The art is done by Humberto Ramos. Artwork is really solid in this comic. I love the way Humberto Ramos draws all his characters. They're just filled with great facial expressions. Like, look at this. And yeah, that's Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. There's all kinds of weird scenarios going on in this comic. You also wind up getting to see Miles Morales with Kamala Khan in this book as well, as there's some kind of weird fantasy scenario going on, which I can't quite make out how this is all happening. And that's the problem with this comic book. And it has to do with Arcade and Mentalo. They're somehow creating, or I don't know, creating this weird scenario where these people are together, and then you wind up getting to see them not together, like what's happening now and what's happening meanwhile and what's happening then, and it just makes it very weird. And the vermin are in this comic book, so it's just very jarring how much it jumps around. When the first issue came out, it wasn't so confusing. But now in this comic, it's like legitimately all over the place. And I just find myself confused. And I'm very curious to see if like all the other readers out there kind of feel the same way I do. So yes, Arcade is behind this. And whenever Arcade is behind something, he's always going to put you into a tough situation mentally or challenge you in death matches and things like that. But I don't know where this comic is going. I give it credit for the creativity of the story, but I don't want to be so confused when reading it. So I'm going to give this one a C+. Let me know in the comments below, where do you guys stand on this comic so far? Ghost Rider Final Vengeance. This is issue 3, 28 pages for the price of $4, written by Benjamin Percy. The art is done by Danny Kim. This book is fire, guys. If there's people out there that are complaining that the Hood can't be the new Ghost Rider and this and that, you're not reading the series, because this series is not about the Hood and him being the new Ghost Rider. He's actually the villain for Johnny Blaze, and Johnny Blaze trying to get the spirit of vengeance back, trying to get his revenge back. And in fact, he hasn't lost his power 100%. He has reminiscence of the spirits of vengeance within him because he's had it for so long. So he can kind of flame up, like this is the way he looks, right? And so now he's going to wind up eventually going after the Hood in this comic. Now, the Hood in this comic book is trying to take over the underground of Chicago. He's trying to be the crime boss, the crime lord, and he's taking on the 5 families, right? So his first family that he winds up taking on in this comic is like this German family, all right? So they're in charge of like transportation from like one place to another. They're in charge of like the railways and whatnot. And you see him go to town, and he has this alliance with the vampires, where his headquarters is called the Meat Locker, and he operates from there. And so his deal with them is everybody that he kills, he gives to the vampires. He just keeps the crime bosses as trophies, right? Which is really awesome. He meets up with his family once again and is trying to make up for all the lost time with his family. Not that his wife is having to do with it. He's just giving them money in order to survive because he knows he owes them so much. And I thought that was really cool. And then you get to see Johnny Blaze do his thing, fighting off some wolves, and he's teaming up with Zeb in the comic as well. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a badass comic with lots of action. And at the end of the day, he takes on another crime family, some family from India that transports organs and sells them for billions of dollars. And then he's got 2 of the families at the end. This is a good book, guys. Just like Benjamin Percy's last run on Ghost Rider, this is phenomenal. I love this. This is an A+. You definitely should pick this up. One of my favorite books of the week. I don't think you'll be disappointed, to tell you the truth. Something is Killing the Children. This is issue 37, 32 pages for the price of $4. James Tynion is the writer, and the art is done by Werther Dell'Edria. Artwork is always phenomenal when it comes to Something is Killing the Children. Look at Erica Slaughter's facial expressions. It's really good. It's definitely unique. It gives the book its own feel, right? And I think that's what I like about the comic so much, And this story arc is really a bunch of one-shots of Erica Slaughter before she became the monster hunter that she is today. So you get to see her character develop. You get to see her help this little girl where a monster was chasing them in like a Walmart shop. And we wound up getting to see the workers work there. It was very intense. It's very suspenseful. And at the end of the day, you wind up just seeing Erica Slaughter prevail over the creature and just give her traditional Erica Slaughter type of lines, which is great. And there's this one girl that's like, man, I want to know more and I want to be like you. And she's like, no, you don't. And then she just walks away like the badass that she is, man. So this book is definitely worthy in every stretch of the imagination. I just said worthy, even though this is not the episode of worthy ones, but it's fun, man. I like reading these one shots. This book is an A for me. I like how sometimes we can dive into stories that are not too in-depth and not too serious, and you just still learn more about the character and the personality of the character. Feral issue 3. This is 28 pages for the price of $4, written by Tony Fleece. The art is done by Trish Forster. This book is great, man. The art is always fantastic, whether it was Stray Dogs or this book. The cats, they just look like Disney animated characters. I love their facial expressions in here. This book is very much intense. It's very intense. This time, not only do you have animals going after the non-infected animals, but you wind up getting to see the humans get the call saying any animal that's in this vicinity you must take out. And so that builds the tension in this comic book. We also get introduced to a new character by the name of Gigi, and we get to see that I think it's Lord. I think it's very trusting of anybody that comes into their party. And then we get the character, I think, named Jonas, who's like, no other people that can come in our party. You can't trust anybody, right? And so it has that very much that Walking Dead feel. Because we get to see our cats travel to a destination. Whether that destination is habitable or not, we're still yet to be seen. And I want to see the character growth in this comic book. I want to see what direction it does take us with a bunch of cats that are running from infected animals, right? I just want to see how a story like this continues to grow. So I'm very intrigued. I'm going to give this one an A-. It's not my favorite because it's, for me anyway, even though it's tense and it's action-packed, it's just been the same thing, running from other animals and people for the most part, right? And I'm just a dog guy. I said it last time. I feel like dogs give off more personality in the last comic than this one. A lot of the cats look very similar, like Lord and Patch. They both got like mohawks, and I get confused by them. But still, really great book, and I can't wait to see where the next issue goes. Void Rivals. This is issue 9, 28 pages for the price of $4, written by Robert Kirkman. Speaking of Walking Dead, right? The art is done by Lorenzo De Felici. Artwork's really good in this comic, man. I love when there's just action sequences in this book, and you get a lot of that in this issue as you get introduced to the Autobot Springer for the first time in the Energon universe, right? We wind up getting to see the Collector character in this comic. What's his name? What's his actual name? It's Skoixoid. I like calling them the Collector because he is a character like that, right? In this issue, it's tough because you wind up seeing Solilla and Derek actually try to survive the wastelands once again. Solilla is very much like mortally wounded, like she could possibly die at any second, but they do come across the Autobot of Springer, and he's willing to help. But then they come across the hunter by the name of Proximus once again, and we get to see Springer kind of underestimate this character, and they wind up going into this crazy battle. So this book was just a lot of fun, man, and I cannot wait to see the direction this goes as we get to see the Quintessons again, and just a fun book that takes place. My only issue with this comic is that Robert Kirkman is a very slow burn writer also. Like, you can have one panel in a regular comic last an entire comic book with him. And so his stories sometimes take forever, but the payoffs are always really good. So I'm going to give this one a B+. I'm not to the point now where I do need more story progression with this, but this is still a really fun read, and I love how this is all connected in some way, shape, or form. I'm just curious to see how these main characters are going to be maybe more connected in the future. I don't know if we'll get that far, but we shall see. Cobra Commander issue 5, 32 pages for the price of $4. Written by Joshua Williamson. The art is done by Andrea Molina. The art is so good in this comic, man. I really enjoyed it. The characters look great. Destro looks phenomenal. Seeing Cobra Commander in that traditional cape, and he's got his little cane there with the cobra on it. The bat androids are really cool. Like, look at this, man. That is awesome. And this book is so good because we wind up getting to see the beginning stages, the relationship between Destro and Cobra Commander, the early formation of Cobra, right? It's just like, hey, I'm going to use the energon that I found, and we're going to use it to power Destro's weapons that he creates. It's an uneasy alliance. It's a, keep your enemies close, or keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer type of situation. And then we wind up getting to see the end of Cobra Law on trying to do their due diligence on maybe getting revenge of Cobra Commander in the future. But overall, an absolutely great book, an A+, a top pick for me. This is a book that you should read if you did not read this series. When it comes out in trade, definitely please read it. You won't be disappointed. Just a fun little origin story of Cobra Commander in the Energon universe. So there you have it, webheads. 14 books to talk about. It was a nice week to discuss DC, Independence, and Marvel this week, so I want to hear all your comments down below. And like I said, if you guys haven't checked out my summertime video on the programming changes that are going to be taking place during the summer, please, you're going to want to check this out. So as always, guys, support those local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember, read your comics so we can have great conversation. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you real soon. Bye.